God bless you, beloved. Welcome to Spiritual Odors. I am so happy to see you guys. Thank you for watching us. I am so privileged, very privileged to be able to come into your presence. The story I want to tell today is not so much a story, but kind of the history of the children of Israel. I like genealogies. I don't know why. Don't forget, on this channel we tell stories of the Bible. But for some reason, I like genealogies. I love reading genealogies. I know when you read it, your eyes are glazed over. It's like, what are they saying? But there are hors d'oeuvres in those stories. There are morsels of meat you can pick out of it. So, and God, you see God, you can confirm the word of God from those things. So that's why I'm drawn to it. So I guess you will indulge me as I drag you into the genealogy of the children of Israel. Please, before I dive in, please like our videos and subscribe, okay? That way other people will get it. With YouTube, the algorithm, we can only reach it, or will only pick us up if people are subscribing and liking it. The more people like it, that's the only way the algorithm can pick it up. So please like us and subscribe. So the story, because of time, I won't have it in. If I want to go to the genealogy on itself, it will not be enough. So I'm going to sew three scriptures together, and it will make it make sense, and then I will be able to, cover my time. So it's going to be Exodus chapter 1. That's the where the story will be based on. But I need to set it up to make it make sense and to give it more meat. So for that, I want to start with Genesis 15. You remember when God told Abraham that you're going to have children and they're going to be like the stars of heaven in Genesis 15. Abraham did not believe like that one day we'll have children all over the world, including our spiritual children, not only natural children, but spiritual children too. His mind cannot fathom what God is saying. He believed God, what God said, but that he will have children across the globe, both spiritual Jews and natural Jews. I don't think he had the ability to process it. No human could have processed it. But to make him believe what he was telling him, God entered this covenant, with him. He said, bring a sacrifice. And he brought the sacrifice. And then a deep sleep came over Abram. Then he began to prophesy to him. Then Jehovah, I'm taking from, this is Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. Then Jehovah told Abram, your descendants will be oppressed as slaves in a foreign land for 400 years. But I will punish the nation that enslaves them, and at the end, they will come away with great wealth. But you will die in peace at a ripe old age. After 4 generations, they will return here to this land, for the wickedness of the Amorites, the Amorite nation living here right now, will not be ready for punishment until then. I found that interesting. Even though the land of Canaan, God gave it to Abraham at that time, he's prophesying to Abraham that the people that live in this land I've given to you, but there are people still on the land. These people are still on this land. They will be eradicated. They will be taken off of the land. And now that we think about slavery, that it took 400, what he's saying, 400 years, it will take 400 years for their sin to come to that level where God will come in and wipe them out. Isn't that interesting? He said, for the wickedness of the Amorite nations living here now will not be ready for punishment until then. And yet he's saying, so for that reason, your children will be oppressed as slaves in a foreign land for 400 years. It now makes sense. I'm like, why 400 years? Because God is saying, the wickedness of the Amorite nations living here right now will not be ready for punishment until then. So now we go to, and to show that what God said is true, God actually gave Abraham Isaac, and Isaac got Jacob and Esau, but God chose Jacob, who later became Israel. And now at this time, they are living in the land of Canaan. Jacob and his 12 sons are living in the land of Canaan. But to make sure this prophecy God gave Abraham, to make sure it will come to pass, for the sin of the Amorite to be ripe enough for God's judgment to fall on them, God needed to move the children of Israel, thank you, Father, move the children of Israel from the land of Canaan to Egypt. And now, this is where it happens. Genesis 46. It says, let me see. He was reluctant. So circumstance, God had to set up circumstances to make Jacob leave. There was no way you're going to convince him to leave the land of Canaan that God has promised them and go to Egypt. It wasn't just going to happen. There was no reason. So the first thing he did was remove Joseph, whom he sent ahead to go prepare for them. Then, when he brought famine, God began to squeeze Israel. Begin to squeeze Israel. The famine became so severe. At this time, they've come. The brothers have gone to Egypt to purchase corn, and Joseph has seen them, and he wanted to see his brother. He said, "Bring your lastborn. Bring your lastborn. You said you have a baby brother, the last one, whose brother is dead. I want to see that. If I don't see that, you people won't buy no. I won't see your face again." So hunger was hanging over their head, and so Israel or Jacob finally, almost like they twisted his arm. God used that boy Benjamin to twist his arm, and he released that boy. Once he released that boy, that's when Joseph introduced himself, that I am Joseph that you sold. And so now Pharaoh said, "Bring your family down." And Jacob finally agreed to come. So to make sure he heard right, was because this is the land of Canaan God gave Abraham, my grandfather. Why would I get all the family up and go to Egypt because of hunger? But to make sure that he took the right decision, God begins to speak to him in Genesis 46. So Israel set out with all his possession and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices there to the God of his father Isaac. Very important. When in the middle of, you are at a crossroad, you're trying to make a decision and you can't see clearly, make an offering. He offered sacrifices there to the God of his father Isaac, and not only Isaac, is Abraham. During the night, after he made that sacrifice, during the night, God spoke to him in a vision. This is Genesis 46, and go on, we're reading. And God is speaking. "Jacob, Jacob," he called. "Yes," Jacob answered. Then God introduced himself. "I am God," the voice replied, "the God of your father. Don't be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will see to it that you become a great nation there. And I will go down with you into Egypt, and I will bring your descendants back again to this Canaan," which is what he promised Abraham in Genesis 15. That's why I like the story. It marries itself. But you shall die in Egypt with Joseph at your side. You see how God almost like just encouraging him. He almost like is giving him something, incentive, that's the word. Gave Jacob an incentive. Joseph, your beloved, will be by your side, okay? So it's okay to go to Egypt. It's okay to leave the land of Canaan and come to Egypt. And I'm reading Genesis chapter 46. You can take it, read from, verses 1 to the end. So, but God appears to him after he offered, because he was still worried. The land of Canaan is a land of promise. So why would they get up? Now there's famine. So as he made an offering, God said, go, I will go with you. But even more importantly, your beloved Joseph will be by yourself. But you will die in Egypt though, because in 400 years, you people, which God had told Abraham, they will be in Egypt for 400 years. So now we go to Genesis 15. Exodus chapter 1, Exodus chapter 1. I'm looking at my time. It said, this is the list of the sons of Jacob who accompanied him to Egypt with their families: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. So the total number who went with him was 70, for Joseph was already there. In those seasons, Joseph and each of the brothers died, ending that generation. Meanwhile, their descendants were very fertile, increasing rapidly in numbers. There was a veritable population explosion, so that they soon became a large nation and they filled the land of Goshen. And then eventually a new king came to the throne of Egypt who felt no obligation to the descendants of Joseph. The first Pharaoh loved Joseph, but that one is dead and gone. It's a new one. And this one was mean. He told his people, these Israelites are becoming dangerous to us because there are so many of them. Let's figure out a way to put an end to this. If we don't, and war breaks out, they will join our enemies, fight against us, and escape out of the country. Like they didn't come out of their own volition. Look at him, wicked man. So the Egyptians made slaves of them and put brutal taskmasters over them to wear them down under heavy burdens while building the cities of Pithom and Ramses as supply centers for the king. But the more the Egyptians mistreated and oppressed them, the more the Israelis seemed to multiply. The Egyptians became alarmed and made the Hebrew slavery more bitter still, forcing them to toil long and hard in the fields and to carry heavy loads of mortar and brick. Then Pharaoh even instructed the Hebrew women, instructed the nurses, Egyptian nurses, that they should kill all the boys that the Hebrew women, Israelis, would give birth to. But the midwives feared God and didn't obey the king. And when they were summoned, he said, the Israelis are very powerful. Like our Egyptian women. It's like, are you saying Egyptians are lazy now? And God blessed the midwives because of their, compassion and the fear of God they had. What is this takeaway? What I see in this, as I was reading, it looks like seemingly, nebulous, but it's not nebulous. God is a God of truth. If whatever he says comes to pass, he's faithful. He told Abraham when Abraham didn't have any child, and Abraham believed. And everything he told Abraham in Genesis chapter 15, we see it come to pass in Exodus chapter 1. They became a whole nation. And Abraham was faithful, Isaac was faithful, Jacob was faithful. When you are faithful consistently, your generation is blessed. And God will cause your enemy to be at peace with you. And this nation is still evolving, because Jesus is going to come through the children of Israel, specifically through Judah. So they cannot be destroyed. God is faithful. What he told Abraham before Abraham died, God is holding true to the part of his part of this bargain. He's a faithful God. He is a faithful God. He increased them, he gave them favor. But now, this is the beginning of the 400 years before they will return back to Canaan. God is faithful. Be faithful to him. He will never leave you, okay? God is a faithful God. God bless you. And until next time, I thank you for watching Spiritual Dove. Bye, darling.